Some quick thoughts on the most recent interview with Harvey Mansfield, who I think is a repugnant miscreant. Um, I think the primary thing that he does that's so horrible is he gives Leo Strauss a bad name by his association and by the fact that people name him as a Straussian. I think everything he says is extremely stupid. And if you just look at it, you have somebody who's misrepresents the situation generally by simply saying, by getting into a round of things which one can never correct under so-called democratic circumstances, which is that somebody says, we're for freedom, and we're for the tradition. In the tradition, what does libertas or liberty mean in the tradition? It means a life worthy of a free man, which is set against the life of a slave, where a slave were 70% of the population, so that then the people that are in favor of the ancient democracies are in favor actually of some type of oligarchies, which 70% of the population had no part in them, and even amongst the part which were part of the demes, like Socrates was, because he was a craftsman, were mostly either democracy is said in that sense, in the sense that they would all. We talk about jury duty as people played some role as die-cast or jurymen or something like that, as Socrates did. But on the whole, they had very little power, and the people that were in power were the rich. And so that usually what was called a democracy meant, one, that a warlike people would get together and vote themselves into wars, as the Athenians did, and two, basically that there's domination by the wealthy, as something more in the direction of Venice or whatever. Public benefices, games, Olympiads, and domination by the wealthy. And then we get Mansfield, who's just total asshole, and just he presents as though the contest between the Democrats and the Republicans, which he glosses according to. I guess we should thank him for giving one more wrong sort of gloss to it, because it's always interesting to have something to bounce off to. It says the Republicans are those who put admiration first, according to him. So if somebody does well, if Donald Trump makes a lot of money, then there should be admiration for him, and then they think the people that deserve to be admired deserve also to have more. Whereas he characterizes the Democrats as people who are concerned with compassion, and then therefore there's from his point of view, then they're also susceptible to being denounced as champagne socialists. So this account of Democrats and Republicans given as conservatives and liberals has nothing to do with the greater part of the tradition of the West, and it's a distraction, but he presents it in such a way that it's impossible to communicate that that's not what freedom is meant in the tradition. And then if you say that, of course, people won't believe you. Even if they do believe you, it doesn't really matter, because the parties themselves aren't actually acting on the basis of whether they think that that's the true meaning of freedom or not. Is the true meaning of freedom the freedom to do down your fellow citizens on the basis of making contracts and of having private security forces and private property rather than personal property within a state? That's supposed to be freedom. So it's like freedom is freedom to have more than others, and to not be bothered, Um, and then the other side of it is supposedly, oh, while we're having freedom to not being bothered, there's these pesky people that are have this affliction that Elon Musk calls the genocidal compassion, or I forget if that's the right term, but something along those lines. This he constantly presents as though this were the question of conservatives, as though this were what made him a conservative, and then what made him like Strauss. It just has nothing to do with Strauss's. It has nothing to do with the history of the West, because the history of the West is about trying to find out what the good life is, which I think would be better put forward by saying Socrates is seeking a model for the good life, which he understands as any other life would not be worth living and be contemptible. And I think the life of, and that there's certain things that should be either despised or there's a contest. I guess if we put it in Nietzsche's terms, it's a question of do people resent certain things? Like, so you could say conservative in Mansfield sense, they really resent that people tell them that they should be bothered by the situation of their fellow human beings. They want to be left alone. To misinform people in the schools and be supported at have money and resources and other people's labor misdirected in order to put them up for 50 years in nice digs and as a university professor, living a leisurely life of Scola. I think this notion of whether it's a question of does one resent such things, or the very same thing one could say one despises such situations. Is it a matter of resentment or is it a matter of despising? I think that's the question. If it's a matter of despising, it's Aristotelian and it's good. It's like we should despise things that are evil and actually hate them and want to destroy them with a passion. So it's like if you don't hate things that are unjust and want to destroy them, something's wrong with you. I think it's obvious. So then there becomes this question of this framing, his whole framing of the situation misunderstands the situation of the West. We should hate the things that are evil and want to destroy them. And then we're struck by this problem that should we actually want to destroy the evil person, or should we have this Christian splitting of the baby problem, where you hate the behavior but you don't hate the thing. I think this type of just to give it sort of a indication of something more in the direction of what the tradition is concerned with, rather than this series of fake questions which Mansfield presents as though they were questions of the conservative versus the liberal. And then of course he can appeal to the time of the French Revolution, which is the time when there was a fake revolution which presented itself as though it were in favor of the people, but it actually was in favor of the rising oligarchic class, the rising class of people that wanted to make contracts freely without having king and aristocrats who had been subsumed into the commercial order by around the time of the French Revolution, 1789, and through their envy overthrew the king, who throughout the Middle Ages, one of Dugin's points is, if you have a czar or a king and 70% of the people are basically in abject slavery, or peasants working in the field, serfdom, they're much better off if they have a king that can protect them in some way, and therefore most of the people are better off under a condition where you have a hereditary aristocracy, which was put down as a parasitical class. The more it got mixed up in commerce, but once you have this situation that Mansfield acts as though it always existed, you then you have nobody that could possibly, you only have Trump, whatever, you have nobody that could possibly present themselves as a protector of the people. Everybody becomes a viper against their fellow human beings, and everybody just presents false slogans in the inverted totalitarian situation. So I think the first corrective to people people like Mansfield should there should be more laying out of the actual problems, and then constantly promulgating them into the political discussion, which is problems such as the misuse of basic terms like freedom. This is the confusion of these basic terms, which always roll around in a circle such that some people don't care what they mean. They just want to say whatever the party they've thrown into says. Other people who do care about what they say are confused about who they should believe about the right account about it. But that the question of whether freedom is being used to mean freedom to destroy other people through commercial means, and some remain thing about the first as aristocracy, then as contract, first as social class, then as construct, or whatever, or if freedom is being used to mean a better life on the whole. A better life at the whole means really that people who are superior in some way are expressions of the whole country or the whole people, and therefore they are obliged to bow down to the whole country and be the servants of the country. That's the sense of the aristocratic ideal, which once it's lost and the freedom means something totally different, totally fake, then we can't even discuss the issue at all in an intelligent fashion.